Hi and welcome to our showroom with Aruba. I'm Tina. I work in also as a focus sales manager, and I'm here with Alex from Aruba Norway today, who's going to talk about Aruba ESP platform.
Yeah, that's correct. Edge Services Platform. That's the
So
topic
I
for
said
today.
platform twice, but that's because today we're going to assume that I don't really know that much about Aruba ESP, and Alex is going to take us through that. So I'm very much looking forward to learning more about that today.
Well, it's going to be a pleasure. Thanks.
So would you like to start off?
Yeah, let's do that. It's to like explain what we're doing with ESP or Aruba Edge Services Platform. We need to look a little bit back to where we've been, and last kind of 15 years we've been building connectivity. So it's being mobile first, bring your own device, things like that, been the focus. But as we move along, we're now in the data era.
What do you mean data era exactly?
Well, the thing is we produce a lot of data now at the edge. So IDC estimates that over 50% of all data will be produced by edge devices and users now. And that data needs to do something because it's not, the value in the data isn't there, it's just stored somewhere. It needs to be used. So that's a data era.
At least from a networking point of view, right? I don't know.
Well, it's for us as well. So
Yeah.
so getting like if you think about it, everything produces data. So if that can give you some added value.
Yeah,
Let's
exactly.
say if you go for a ride in your car and the map function in your car tells you that, well, it's been an accident 2 miles ahead, so you need to take a different route. That's using data that's available at the edge.
Right.
Yep.
And that's huge value.
Yeah, or else you've been stuck in traffic for a couple of hours.
Which has happened before.
Yeah, it happens before. So what we're trying to do is that we try to use that data to increase the experience
Right.
for the user.
Right. And also for businesses, I assume, and
So
everyone.
Yeah, so that taking that data that you already own or have and try to use it to generate more income
Right.
for a business
Right.
or be more productive for a school or public sector.
Exactly.
So that's the one side of it. The other side is kind of to pull out some efficiencies, and that's more, if you look at the experience side, it's giving a better experience and having a better network for user, but the efficiencies is also about giving the network operator a easier task and to solve problems quickly. And so that's the other side of it.
Okay. And how does this sort of tie in with ESP and the strategy and everything?
Well, we kind of have a vision though. It brings us to the architecture and how it looks a little bit further down. But if you look at the first two like arrows here, it's connect and protect. That's what we've kind of been doing for many years. It's connecting people and devices to access points and switches and servers and everything in the data center as well. And then you take the protect part, which is ClearPass, been a product for a while, giving the correct person.
Making sure your internet's secure.
Yeah, not that much the internet, but we look in
not your internet, sorry, but your network.
Yeah, more looking at the network
Yeah.
in your business, and that's kind of securing the inside as well. And that's a really good point. But that was the first task that Aruba had, was building a secure network for the U.S. Air Force, I believe, or Army, to like see when we're going to connect to Wi-Fi, is that really secure? And that's what like building a secure network was the first task.
Right.
But then we look at the two added arrows there. It's analyze and act. So now we have a lot of network data and a lot of data, and then we need to analyze that. And once we've analyzed it, we need to act upon it.
Right.
Take some action, do something with it. And that's the point going backwards. You need to use the data for something. So that's where we're at. And that brings me over to the architecture.
And this slide looks a little bit confusing, so I hope you can take us through this in a easy to understand way.
Yeah, well, as every architecture, it's built by an architect, kind of. So it needs to be complicated. It needs to have some building blocks to get there. And this is kind of the basic foundation of everything. And And what's important on this slide is that it built into Central. I think one key message that the resellers that also has is that if you think Aruba, start with Central, because almost everything we're going to do moving forward is going to be put into that platform.
And Aruba Central is almost the services platform, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
It is. It's where we're going to add the value, and the partner's going to add their value, and it's where you see all the devices, you're going to see all their access point and switches, and do the connectivity part.
Right.
And final point on this slide is that we encourage the partners and also as well to try to build this as a service. Try to build it around something that you can deliver as a service. At least we in Aruba do that. We try to move to subscriptions and financing and building it into the kind of the cloud consumption model that we have.
I'm assuming that's a lot of what we're going to see in the future, and how we're going to be collaborating with our resellers and with you as a vendor.
And we need to be more dynamic. Like looking back at the year we've been through, and still like the period we're in, is that normally we're in a home office situation, right?
So right now.
Nice office, but still we're normally there, and then we're going to move back to something else. And wouldn't it be nice if you can say that, okay, you can reuse that equipment to something else, or you can buy another service in the enterprise. So that's moving to a service.
Be more dynamic to changes, and just how we experience now with COVID-19 and how that affected us. And
and it's thinking kind of that cloud-like experience that everyone's talking about. It's hard to imagine that in a network scenario, but it's getting there with Central, and it's moving in with the hardware and the consumption as well.
Right.
Yeah. So I was thinking, okay, so we talked about the strategy with connect, protect, and analyze and act, right? So I'm going to look into some few components on those things.
Yeah, because I guess there are three main components that.
Yeah, three or four.
Three or four, okay, that we should take away from this. Well, you need to tell me about them.
Well, if you look at the connect part, I said that Central was the most important part, and one of the things, and we're going to look at the analyze and act part as well, is that we're trying to make the network as easy as possible to manage from one part. As at the same time, we're going to present and give you as much information as possible. So that's kind of, it's like a thick book, but with like the summary at the front. So we're trying to like summarize everything in an easy way, but you need that additional information as well. And that's what we're trying to do in Central. So you can manage your network from an app if you want to, like the app view of Central, installing and doing everything from that. It's not going to give you the deepest insight into your network, but it's going to give you that overview you need at a day-to-day basis. And it's going to be the same view as you have in the web interface that you normally use. But also on the right-hand side, it's a very important part that's been there all along. It's the APIs and the integration part.
Yeah. Tell me more, because I'm not sure what you mean exactly.
No, but every function in Central can be reached through an API, and then you can use that data that's already available and use it for your own purpose. So either it's like giving access to guest networks, but also like we did within like the last 6 months, or 8 months, we looked at how the network access points are used by different users, and then we can analyze that data, and we can track how people move around in a building. And that's social distancing.
Right, exactly.
So if we see that, okay, it's been 30 people under that access point, we know that they're pretty much too close to each other. At least they've probably been in contact.
But this is something, right, that you were using to also be able to tell someone if they'd been in the vicinity of someone who was actually sick. So
that's moving even further out, from the building. So you could use it as an internal tracking system, but you can also use it as giving information to other systems. So that's totally correct. So
much you can do
with
all this. Yeah.
So and moving to the next step, like was connect, protect, analyze, and act. And protect part this is a busy slide, so I expect like we need to go a little bit step by step, but you can divide it in half. And the top part is discovery mode. So
discovering
things.
Okay.
On your network. So that's discovering like what's living, what's existing on your network. And if you ask the kind of the question you can ask a network admin that's a little bit below the belt, it's to what's on your network. Do you have control? Do you know every user on your network, every device on the network? And if they say yes, they're either using ClearPass Device Insight or they're lying.
Okay.
So what the ClearPass Device Insight does is that it's really good fingerprinting method living inside that, and it's also reaching out to the cloud to learn from other central instances.
Sounds really smart, because I mean, when we talk about devices, it's not just the cell phones and tablets and PCs, but it's also like even traffic lights or stuff like that, right? So it's a crazy world out there.
Yeah, so everything on there, and as we know in Norway, we drive a lot of electric cars. These guys talk to the network as well and download software and everything. And we have a colleague in Netherlands who's really proud that he bought a new Tesla, and that was a Model S, and it showed up as a Model 3. So some sort of glitch in the system, and so he thought he had like the big bad version of the car, but he ended up in ClearPass Device Insight. He ended up with a smaller version, so it was a little bit annoyed. But we changed that, so it sees everything, and that's the point. If it's a coffee maker or if it's a Tesla, it's going to show up.
And it's really important to be able to assign different roles to these, because from what I've understood, for example, there's some IoT devices that are really scary to have on your on your network, because they can be infiltrated quite easily. Well,
yeah, and IoT devices are notoriously bad when it comes to security. And of course, since everyone said that for so many years, people are starting to think about it. But there's also a point that a security camera, as an example, have no business on your email server.
Right, exactly.
It should just get the role as a security camera and be transported to the security server or the video server.
And this is something that ClearPass.
Yep, that's the bottom part.
Right.
You know a lot for not knowing anything, but that's good.
I'm just making guesses, Alex.
Yeah, okay. Great, it's so intuitive. It's ESP. So that's the protect part. So let's move on to the analyze and act. So yes, it's condensed into one step, and that was kind of back to what we talked about with data. So using that and getting some good suggestions from the network on what you can do. For example, it's instead of searching for the needle in the haystack, it at least gives you 3 different needles to choose from.
Because this is something that's quite good for network admins, right? Yeah. I mean, making life a little bit easier there.
Yeah, and that's
if you wanna
elaborate. That's the whole point of it. It's we call it the mean time to innocence. It's how you can shorten the time until you said it's not a network problem, it's something else.
Okay.
That's what we're not using it for that, but it's gonna shorten the time before the problem is solved dramatically.
So you call it back to innocent times.
Yeah.
Everything's okay.
Everything's working, and that's the main point. But it's also now. People say that, well, they add AI to everything, and it's modern and it's new and it's fancy, but this is actually using big data and using all the available data points that we have, because we have several hundred thousands of devices and millions of users.
Huge database.
Yeah, because everything's living in the cloud. So central is like the basis of this, and we of course it's only it's telemetry. It's anonymized data, so it's not going to be like personal data that Tina is doing this on a network. Right. It's going to be like a device doing this and following that motion. So that's critical to know that it's nothing personal. It's just big data being resourced. So an example can be that you if you introduce a new client into your enterprise network and you see that, well, it's a driver problem, you can start to type in the search function natural language, so you can see computers or PCs or this or that having a problem, and then you get, okay, 8 out of 10 has had this problem, so it might be this. And the cool thing is that you can then add apply fix. You have a green button saying apply fix. So
then it just configures it.
Yep.
Just for that
push it out
problem and solution.
Yeah,
Pretty fancy.
Yep, it's fancy. And the next step of this is going to be automation, right? So
Of course, yes. So you almost don't have to do anything anymore.
you just get a report saying that, well, we've done these changes.
Maybe HR can be a network admin next.
Well, let's hope.
Let's hope
that's
not.
going to be HR and network admin. That's a combined function. But the next part in this is that, okay, now if you look at it from a network admin perspective, you can also turn it around and look at it from a user perspective.
Right.
So with UXI or user experience insights, that's a service and a physical hardware that we put outside the network. It's not a part of the network. It monitors the services living on the network, so it appears as a user. And that's a really cool thing, because a lot of vendors out there, us as well, have synthetic tests that we run on an AP or a switch, saying that, okay, can I reach YouTube? Okay, you did. Bye-bye, back again. But that's inside the network. So it's probably going to have fairly good connectivity, and it's still going to be on the network. The sensor is living outside the network. It's logged on as a user, and it tries to reach and do the same things as a user does. So it will find out if it's Microsoft Azure that's down, or if it's a DHCP problem or DNS problem in the network.
Okay. So from the outside in and from the inside out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So instead of having Tina calling in saying that, well, I can't log on, it's going to be the UXI sensor showing up and saying,
okay.
well, it's a red smiley instead of a green smiley. And what we did now is that we collaborated with a company called Zebra.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of them?
No, I haven't. But well, I mean, I've heard you talk about it, but I actually don't know what they do yet.
This is a cool innovation that we came up with, and we presented at Atmosphere. That was a couple of weeks ago, and
which was great.
Yep. And the thing with Zebra is that they do logistics and warehousing and really specialized in that area, and a lot around retail, healthcare, those industries. So a nurse can go around and scan different medicines. So it needs to be up and running all the time. A warehouse needs these functions to work to be able to send out whatever they sell or send out. So what we did is that the UXI sensor that I talked about is a physical box. It may be a 3 or 4 installed, normally behind the boss's head, because if the boss is happy, everyone's happy.
Yeah,
and happy wife, happy life. And then you place, now we placed a snippet of that code into the Zebra device. So instead of having 4 or 5 in your warehouse, you now have a UXI sensor on every handheld device in that warehouse.
Which gives you so much more details about your network, right?
Yeah. So instead of like having that static picture, you now move around with the worker that use it, and give you real-time information. So let's say you have a like 10 football field big warehouse, and you move around with all the access point you need to roam, and you move around on a forklift or something, so it's pretty fast, and you can monitor this. Does it work?
Mm-hmm.
Is the person up and running? And combining that with telephony and other services that's on the network, it gives a better experience, and you can look into that.
That's pretty amazing. I think there's just so incredibly many things that I mean, just ESP offers in its architecture.
Yep.
I don't think we've even managed to go through half of it, but we could talk about it for hours.
Yeah. We've been talking about like small use cases that we look into, but the main thing with Aruba is always to remember that it's customer first, customer last. We live by that, and we try to build solutions to increase the experience for the customer. It's not to build the biggest, baddest network in the world. That's not our mission. It's to give the better experience.
And here we also want to work with you on that vision of customer first.
Yeah, and that's why I also been with us since the start in Norway. That's great.
Exactly. So we're always here for you.
Yeah.
If you want to know more. So I would like to thank you very much for this talk. I found it incredibly enlightening, and I think I know a little bit more about Aruba by ESP now.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.